It's time for the season premiere of The 1's. If you are new to our show, first off, thanks for joining us. I'm Patrick. Looking forward to spending some time with you. But it's what we do when we have an opportunity to make a case for a particular player in a particular position group to lead that group in scoring for the week. So we start with the quarterbacks rank. Who will be the top scoring QB week 1?
I'm going to go a little off menu, and I'm going to do something I never do, and it's going to go deep dive.
Oh, wow.
Patrick Mahomes.
Oh.
Yes, Patrick Mahomes. Deal with that. But you know what? I was trying to think of like somebody like Baker Mayfield, but I'm like, let's be serious. Because whenever you give Andy Reid ample time to prepare for an opponent, there are a few coaches in the NFL history who are better than that. And Patrick Mahomes has been great in season openers. He has averaged close to 28 fantasy points per game in his career in week 1, which is the most in the Super Bowl era. He is also very good against the Baltimore Ravens. He averages averages more than 28 fantasy points per game. I really do believe that this Chiefs team, even though they kind of I don't want to say sleptwalk through the regular season last year, but you could tell they were slow playing it a little bit like one of those wrestlers in the Royal Rumble who's kind of like hiding in the corner and then oh, it's the playoffs, we'll play great. But I do believe the Chiefs are going to come out and make a huge statement, and I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have a monster game.
Patrick Mahomes, certainly a nice call. I'm going to go with the other guy that goes big in the AFC, and that is Josh Allen taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Last season, he had 13 games with 20 or more fantasy points, 13 top 10 weekly finishes, including 9 top 5 finishes. Now, he's breaking in sort of a reworked wide receiver core without Stephon Diggs, so that maybe we see him take off and run a little bit more. We know he has rushing touchdown upside. Also, did I mention this could be one of the higher scoring games of the week? And for the Bills to stay in it, Josh Allen is going to have to be very productive.
I agree, Marcus. It will be one of the highest scoring games of the week. That's why I'm going to take the other quarterback in Kyler Murray. One of the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks of all time in terms of points per game. Bills defense in a transitional phase. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde played 98%, 92% of the defensive snaps last year. They're gone. I think they adjust eventually, but I like Kyler and Josh Allen in this one. But K1 outscores him in a fantasy duel at the quarterback position. Let's go over to running back.
It was very polite of you to say transitional period. They're not as
They're
good.
making some changes. What are you going to do? What about running backs, right?
You know what? Christian McCaffrey. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with Travis Etienne, which should be considered super chalky as well. But watching a lot of you draft over the last couple of weeks, this was not super chalky. A lot of you are overlooking a player who, depending on your scoring, was a top 5 running back last season. He had 6 games with at least 20-plus fantasy points, the most by a Jaguars running back since our friend MJD. Well over 300 touches last year. And the Miami defense allowed a touchdown on 65% of red zone drives last year. And of course, Christian Wilkins is now a part of the Las Vegas Raiders. They did bring in a lot of dudes. They brought in Calais Campbell for the vibes, and they also brought in a lot of guys, but still, Miami defense that's in transition.
It's the nice way to say it.
Very polite way to say it.
Because it takes time to adjust to these things, which is why you're going to
They got a new defensive coordinator who I think is going to be very good. I'm just not sure how good they will be in week 1.
And that's a theme that we'll keep coming back to is teams kind of in transition. It's going to take a while to adjust. Also adjust to the fact that me and Rank are taking the same player. I also have Travis Etienne as my RB1 for the week. So it's 2. Marcus, are you going to triple up here? Or what?
No, sadly I'm not. I'm going to go.
They got more Travis Etienne.
There's more Travis Etienne video if you want to talk about him some more.
Well, he's a good player. The addition, right? Not necessarily the addition. There was a slow start last year with no Cam Robinson at the start of the season. Towards the end, we talked about it with the 49ers and Trent Williams. When you have your left tackle, it helps. It makes everything better. We saw that late, and maybe some people, ADP-wise, that's why Travis Etienne's falling a little bit because of the slow start last season, but I think he's solid.
So, yeah, I'm going to go away from the Etienne portion of the program. Not that he's a bad player, but I'm going to say Saquon Barkley because I just talked about the tush push and whether or not it's going to be a thing. I think we're going to see some Saquon near the goal line. Now, last year, the Packers were sort of middle of the road against fantasy running backs. They gave up a little more than 17 points per game to the position. Last season, now, Saquon took on this Packer defense, gave you 85 rushing yards, a pair of rushing touchdowns, also 3 catches for 15 yards. I think over the course of the season, and we may even see it in week 1, I think you're going to see fewer touches than he was getting with the Giants because he's not going to necessarily be the focal point of the offense. but I think you're going to see a more efficient overall offense, one that can score more points. They're going to be a lot more prolific in Philadelphia than they have been in New York.
Quantity goes down, quality goes up for Saquon. I think that would make a lot of fantasy managers happy. There were both last year for your wide receiver one, correct?
Yeah, Tyreek Hill started off amazingly. He had a number of touchdowns. He had 12 touchdowns in his first 13 games before the high ankle sprain really took him down. But I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill here, although there are a couple of things that concern me a little bit. Number one, that he spent too much of the offseason jawing with Olympic sprinters. Which I'm like, hey, do you want to play football or not? And then he's also talking up Jalen Waddle a lot, which is cool because I have Jalen Waddle in a lot of spots. The thing of it is I look at this matchup. Last year, the Jags allowed the 7th most passing yards per game on the season, and they allowed the 5th most touchdown receptions to wide receivers. So one of these Dolphins receivers is going to hit, but I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. Again, I'm going to go the chalky way out in week 1 until we really get a good gander of how these teams are going to play out and the way things get moving.
Well, if you're going to be chalky, I will be Crayola because I'm going to stick with Tyreek Hill on this one as well. Just the volume of targets that, sure, maybe Jalen Waddle does see a few more, but the volume of targets that Tyreek Hill got, even with a little bit of a dent placed into that, still going to see a lot of opportunity. And people were picking on parts of the Jaguars secondary last year. 9 different receivers had double-digit targets against the Jags in 2023. 6 receivers had at least 100 yards in a game. And yes, Tua may have ideas of spreading the ball around, but at some point when number 10 is open, he's going to get the target.
Well, you guys going chalk, Crayola.
Yeah.
I'm painting with my fingers. I'll take Davante Adams because last season against the Chargers, Davante Adams had more targets against the Chargers than against their other divisional opponents, the Chiefs and the Broncos combined. I expect high volume and production as well because here we go again. The Chargers rank. They're in a transitional phase with regards to their
phrase. I know you don't believe in this kind of stuff either, but Davante Adams was really upset with the Chargers' social media team.
Oh,
I know you hate stuff
I might not believe it. That doesn't mean it's not fun. So, yeah, defensive coordinator Jesse Minter comes on. Maybe they'll improve, but early on against Davante.
He's probably in the social media office right now being like, would you stop antagonizing this guy, please?
No, it's like you're going to make him mad. And we saw Jimmy Garoppolo made him mad, and he got all those targets. He had all that
Jimmy
production.
Garoppolo's not there anymore, so there's nothing to it.
Don't upset Davante Adams. We have a lot to look forward to this